Hi, folks. It's Michael, and welcome to another edition of Covenant Nation. And like I've been fiddling around for the past, couple of weeks, and all I'm doing here is just making audio notes, just notes, something I can springboard off of when I go back and listen to them again. So today, notes, and here's the note, and it's the Sabbath. And as all of you know, well, hopefully you know, you probably don't, maybe you don't, but the Sabbath is the sign of the covenant. Not just circumcision, people, but the Sabbath. Whether or not you keep the Sabbath is a sign of whether or not you're in covenant with God. Obviously, those that blow off the Sabbath and they want to rest in their Sunday comfort zone. And, I think all of you know by now that it was Caesar, that it was Constantine that changed the Sabbath from the seventh day to the first day. And so today, the Christian Sabbath is a sign. The Christian Sabbath on Sunday is a sign, should be a sign to the whole world that these are not the people of God, that these are the people of great apostasy. The fact that they believe in their hearts that they have the authority to abrogate the commandments of God, that they have the authority through Caesar. And I'll tell you what, let me tell you something that is going to damn a lot of Christians, and it is going to damn your soul, Christian. If you go out and preach that God, in the name of Jesus Christ, that God changed the Sabbath to Sunday, you go out and you preach that lie, and you have damned your soul. You will never, ever, ever at any time obtain the kingdom of heaven. You will never at any time obtain the tree of life nor entrance into the new city, as long as you are preaching a flagrant lie in the name of Jesus Christ, and dang near all of you have. Once a week, as a week is rendered to man of 7 days, you have an opportunity, Christian, to choose the tree of life. You have an opportunity once a week to choose the tree of life. And until you understand that the Ten Commandments and the tree of life are inseparable, they are inseparable. It is through the keeping of the commandments of God that you obtain the tree of life. You can't separate the two of them. You just can't. Once a week, every Christian has an opportunity to keep the Sabbath on the seventh day. Every single solitary one of you do. Once a week, you have that opportunity to make that choice. Choose. When you understand that choosing the commandments is the same choice that Adam and Eve had in the garden, people, you can choose to obey the commandment of God. Don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. In the day that you do, you will die. What is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? It is rebellion. It is the rebellion against his commandment. That's how you get there. That's how you get dead, people. That's how you get damned. That's how you get cut off. That's how you get exiled. That's how you lose your nation. It's how you lose your life, is when you rebel against the commandment of God. Once a week, man has a choice to bend his knee to the voice of God and the commandment of God. Once a week. Consequently, that's just in a week of a man. And in the number of all your weeks that you've been given, man, if you continually choose the tree of life, if you continually choose to obey his commandment, to bend your knee to your God and keep his commandment, which is a joyful day. It's a day that you come before the Creator and learn of him. You really do. When you keep the Sabbath with God, God keeps his Sabbath with you, and he opens up the wonders of his word and the wonders of his creation to you. right? He gives you revelation because he is the one that you truly desired to be revealed to you. Am I making sense? Don't you want the revelation of the living God? Don't you want the revelation of your salvation? It comes when you fellowship with him. That should be a no-brainer. Doesn't come when you go to church. Doesn't come when you listen to a preacher. It comes when you wait daily at his gates for him. And if you do that daily, I'll tell you what, when the Sabbath comes up, you are going to be waiting with great joy and expectation because you know he visits you big time on the Sabbath. And it's a weekly visit if you walk with him. Christians don't get this. Most Christians, they experience God once in their life, generally at the very beginning of what they think is their salvation. Well, actually, they think they got saved. Right? That's another tragedy, another note. The revelation of salvation only comes to those who fear God and keep his commandments. These are the only ones that will ever obtain the revelation of salvation, the revelation of the redemption. All right, I'm off track a little bit here. Consequently, mankind as a whole has the tree of life come around and made available to them once a week, even in God's great week. A day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is as a day. So, 6,000 years ago, our patriarchal parents were given the opportunity to eat from the tree of life, which is perpetual righteousness, all your days. And all the days of your world, all the days of your children, perpetual righteousness. This is the place where you are blessed for 1,000 generations. 1,000 generations. You know, in 6,000 years, we barely had, I think, 150, maybe 200. Right, but God promises a blessing of 1,000 generations upon the righteous. And this is the generation that he takes to the tree of life. This is the generation that chooses all their days to eat from the tree of life. And yes, you do. The tree of life and the commandments are inseparable. Go back and read Revelation 22. They are inseparable, people. How do you know? I mean, you can go back to Revelation 2, Church of Ephesus. How do you know a lying apostle? It's the easiest thing in the world if you understand that no man sent from God will ever weaken the commandments. No man sent from God will ever turn you away from the law of Moses or the 10 Commandments. No man sent from God will ever do that. You want to know who the lying apostle of Ephesus is? Well, you probably, got a lot of his clones running around in Christianity today because most of the lying, not most, all of the lying apostles, people, treat the Sabbath of God with contempt as unnecessary, absolutely unnecessary, totally contradicting all that God has ever said in the denouncing and in the treating of contempt with the Sabbath. All right? Wouldn't it be interesting, Christian, if you got a revelation that the Sabbath of God is integrally tied to the tree of life? And it always has been. The commandments are the tree of life. It's how you get there. It's how you get there. And the generation that comes into to the understanding, to the revelation of the tree of life, to the revelation of his commandments, to the revelation of salvation. In that day, wow, in that day, you can say MAGA, because God himself will make America great again when the people of America choose individually, mano a mano, one-on-one, between you and your God, up front and personal, people. Not a God that's way, way out there, but the one that's up front and personal, that resides in your heart, that speaks to you daily. Obey my voice and keep my commandments. And America, if you would do that, in the doing of that, go back and read Nehemiah and the building of the walls of Jerusalem. People, this is when you return and do his commandments as he spoke them out of his mouth. Not how Caesar spoke them out of his mouth. Not as the Roman church spoke them out of their mouth. Not as how the Protestant church, who also rejects the Sabbath. Yahshua said, if you would be great, if you would be called great in the kingdom of heaven, do the commandments of God. Teach others, not only through your words, but through your example, to do his commandments. And yes, you will be great, America, again. But you're not going to be great because of the people you vote into office or try to. I think you figured out by now that until you can overcome the treachery that resides in the capital of this nation, that city that wants to be the head of this nation, Washington, D.C. Christian, you are not the head, you're the tail. You're barely even a tail. They want to genocide you something fierce, and I think you know it. Not just you Christians, but also MAGA. They want to genocide you. They want to open up the floodgates of social violence against all of us. If you want the walls to go back up around your life, the walls of salvation, people, your walls are your doing, your keeping of the commandments of God. These are your walls of salvation. It's what they are. Everything, people, revolves around the commandments of God. Everything, especially your life. These were notes. I'll get back in a little while. Oh, yeah, real briefly, and I didn't really say it. Here we are, 6,000 years from the fall. 6,000 years that we know of, and I'll tell you what, folks. The knowledge of the tree of life has returned. The revelation of the tree of life. It is available today. And those that reach out and grab a hold of the revelation of salvation, which is the 10 Commandments. God is my salvation. He is the commandments. He is the commandments. When you choose the commandments, you choose him. When you reject the commandments, you reject him. And until that gets through your waxy ears, church, until that gets through your waxy ears, MAGA, you're going to be beating your head against a stone and going nowhere. When you overcome the treachery that's in your own heart, the treachery, the word, the voice that would turn you away from the commandments, that is a voice of treachery. Anything in your heart that would turn you away from the commandments of God is the voice of treachery. Period. 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 Once a week, both in the little week of man, every Sabbath you have an opportunity to choose the tree of life, and you choose it on the Sabbath. You choose it every time you get tempted to break a commandment. And when you keep the commandment, in spite of the temptations that might be your way, you've chosen the tree of life. You've just defeated the evil one. You defeated the evil one. When you choose the commandment of God, you defeat the evil one. If you will do this, MAGA, on an individual level, God himself will do it on the corporate level. And then you won't have to groan and suffer because you were overcome by the treachery of, say, like the Senate Majority Leader, or the treachery that is in the, you know, we know, in the evil ones that have hijacked this nation. And they are treacherous, and they are both Democrat and Republican. Both. As a matter of fact, the worst of them are Republicans. At least the Democrats let you know up front and personal just who they are and what they're about. They don't hide that at all. But it's these treacherous ones. These treacherous ones that are hiding in the Republican Party, that are hiding in the conservative movement. These treacherous ones that sabotaged what was going to be a great red wave. They sabotaged it. They did. But MAGA, they will never have that power if you will overcome the treachery in your own heart and allow the commandments of God to crucify that voice of treachery. All right? And give you the power to walk in his ways. All right.